This is Notes in the Margin, a podcast for people who are super excited about writing their non-fiction book, but perhaps, just perhaps, aren't quite doing it. If you always feel called to tile the bathroom or clean the toilet instead of writing your book, you are in the right place. Your host, Vicky Fraser, has been there, done that, and has literally written the book about it. Join Vicky and her husband Joe as they make notes in the margin about creativity, writing techniques, publishing, and general shenanigans, and get tips and tricks to help you write your book. Hello and welcome to Notes in the Margin, and today I am here to talk about microbooks because that is what we are doing this month. It's too late for you to join this round, I'm afraid, but I do want to introduce you to the wonderful and amazing Hannah de Keijzer, who is a fellow writing coach, editor, and book nerd, word nerd, and also ex-professional dancer. And that last fact is really important, partly because I am also, I'm an aerial performer and dancer, not so much a floor dancer, but aerial performer. So I'm really keen on putting my body and my brain together, and that's something that Hannah does incredibly well. And so today, this week's podcast is all about feeling good where you write, because that is the really cool service that Hannah is offering to anyone who writes for a living or spends any amount of time curled up like a shrimp or a troll in their chair trying to write stuff. And so in this episode, we're talking all about why your writing space is so important, why it's important to think about what your body is doing as well as what your mind is doing, and why the two things are connected and how those two things are connected. And Hannah's also going to be talking a bit about her amazing offer that she's made available to my microbooks people, but also that she runs for everybody else as well. So you can have a listen in, find out why it's really important that your workspace, that your writing space is comfortable and beautiful and works really well for you. And I hope you enjoy everything that you hear. Hello and good afternoon and welcome to, everybody who wants to write a book or a microbook or anything at all, really. My name is Vicky Fraser from Moxie Books, and I am here today to talk to you about microbooks, but also I want to introduce the amazing and wonderful Hannah de Keijzer, who is going to talk to us a little bit about how to feel good while you write and avoid being like a writey troll type person, which is how I often end up writing. Because if we want to write good stuff and, be able to walk at the end of it, we need to have a lovely environment. So I will talk a little bit about micro stuff actually at the end. But Hannah, can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do and why it's important to have a beautiful and comfortable workspace?
Yeah, hello. I'm Hannah. I am a word nerd and a body nerd. I'm a book editor, nonfiction book editor and proofreader, and a writing coach. And I also have been a professional dancer and dance teacher and choreographer, and I was a massage therapist for 8 years. So right now I'm offering a session called Feel Good Where You Write, which brings that word nerdery and that body nerdery to bear on your behalf and lets us look together at your workspace and your body's habits and figure out how we can leverage them as creative fuel and help you focus rather than having them be another drain that's derailing your brain and your concentration and your creativity.
That sounds awesome. I'm really I love that I've met you anyway, because you are so cool, but also because you're a dancer, and obviously I've got my aerial background and my aerial dance background, and it's just so I've never really met anybody else who has those two kind of things that you bring together, and I just love that you've brought body and brain together in the context of writing. So so can you tell us a little bit about what your service is, about your Feel Good Where You Write, please?
Yeah, so it's a one-on-one session where we look collaboratively at your whole workspace and your body in it, basically. And we start with a pre-session questionnaire so you can start to gain insight into your own creative process. And I get a sense of who you are and how your brain works and where you're working. And we use that to fuel our session together. And in the session, you might take me on a Zoom tour of your space and I'll say, oh, hey, I'm noticing that lighting over here is really dim. Like, does that serve you? I'm just looking, basically, I'm asking you a lot of questions, and listening for where you're getting stuck in your process and why you might be feeling like uninspired to sit down and write, and saying like, oh, if we make really small changes in your space, will it feel inviting to sit down in? Like, can you make your space an inviting one that feels like a relief and a joy to sit in, rather than like someplace you kind of want to like go back in the other room and pretend to write, or like you sit down and you're intending to write, instead you just check Twitter because there's like, why wouldn't you? And then a lot of people, like me, often among them, are like little shrimps at the computer, right? Like, we've all seen the meme on the internet.
Yeah.
And that gets to us. Like, it just gets in the way of our brains functioning. And so I bring that massage therapist background to bear and say, like, how can we help that shift slowly over time so that you're not in pain when you sit down to write? And then after the session, I send folks a pretty detailed action plan, like things we talked about during the session, insights you might want to hold on to, and then how we can transform those insights into action. So it's not just another like thing you learned that sits around and makes you feel guilty because you didn't do anything with it, which I'm really good at. But I don't want my people to feel that way. So I give you an action plan that sets out some of the things we talked about and how you can begin to accomplish them in small steps every day to make a real difference.
That sounds absolutely awesome, and I am super excited about that because I often find myself kind of, I'm writing and I'm like, oh, why does everything hurt? And then I look at what I'm doing and I'm like, I literally look like a troll doll, and so I've got that kind of reminder to stand up and move around. So I get that, and I also get how difficult it is as well to kind of look at your own workspace and think, well, what can I change? Because we get stuck in our ruts, right? We get stuck in like, I like my stuff around me, I like things where they want to be. So I guess that's where what you offer comes in incredibly valuably, because you've got that kind of eyeballs looking at it from an outside point of view, and you could be like, well, why is that there? And that's making you reach over here. And is
Yeah.
that part of what you do?
It is. Yeah, it is. Like, I worked with somebody yesterday, actually, or not yesterday because today's Monday, on Friday. I don't know what day of the week it is anymore.
Same.
Parenting problem. Uh, I worked with someone on Friday who was just feeling really uncomfortable. Her roommate had just moved out. She suddenly had this new workspace in the house, but she didn't like how it felt to sit at her work table in her house. And I was like, what if you turn it 90 degrees so that you still have the window in your line of vision, but you're looking out into your space instead of feeling like you're wedged in a corner? Because I had heard her say in her other workspace that she didn't like feeling wedged in a corner, and she hadn't applied that same insight to this workspace. And I had her do it on the session because she could move the table by herself. And she sat down and took a few deep breaths and was like, oh, yeah. And that's exactly what I love. Like, I love those little light bulb moments when you take a moment to take stock and your body's like, yes, this is going to free up some space for my brain to do better work.
That's so cool. And I think I saw you pop that on LinkedIn earlier. So if anybody is watching this and they're like, oh, this is all cool, I want to see a little bit about what Hannah's done for somebody else, then find her on LinkedIn. You can see Hannah's name on the
Yeah,
thing.
it's terrible to spell, but that's how you say it.
Go find her on LinkedIn and follow her and have a look at what she's posting, because everything you post is just so lovely anyway, to do with kind of space and movement, and it's fab. So that's really cool. So because I can see, like, I can think objectively about, I don't want to get to like 80 years old and be shaped like a shrimp who's sat in a chair. And also I know that present me really doesn't care that much about that, because like future me can worry about that kind of thing. So I really like the fact that your focus here is on enjoying your writing more while you're there. So are you finding that people are actually being more, I hesitate to use the word productive because it's such a kind of industrialist term, but it's like, are you finding that people are creating more of what they want to create and enjoying it more because they've changed their space?
Absolutely. I think there's a really big hidden cost to this body stuff that we just aren't aware of most of the time. And that includes me often. Like, as I said, a total body nerd. I think this way. I trust my body. I communicate with my body. And even I don't notice half the time. So I'm trying to be there to shine a bit of a light for folks and say, hey, this is a big part of our creative work. And changing something here can really make a difference in terms of productivity, if you want to use that word. But I kind of think of it more in terms of focus.
Yeah.
And focus yields productivity for me and for many of the people that I work with. But I tend to lean into that word a little bit because like I can never guarantee you a higher word count. Like I cannot do that. I wouldn't do that, but I can offer these tools that will help you keep your attention where you want it to be. And that then yields usually more words on the page or more excitement about your ideas, more willingness to be butt in the seat or, standing at your standing desk, right? Willingness to be in the space, engaging with the work is what creates opportunity for productivity and higher word count.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that your focus isn't necessarily on higher word count either, because mine isn't either. It's just like, yeah, sometimes you want to get loads of words out on a page, but other times you want to be able to, like, you just want to be able to think a bit more clearly, and whatever your work looks like. So sometimes for me it's doodling, and sometimes for me it's spinning around in a circle in the middle of my room, and all of that is writing, and it's just like how getting people to feel like they can do that and feel kind of good about it and safe about it. This is very exciting. So, okay. So the reason that Hannah and I are talking today, actually, no, before we do that, because I want to see, bring him out.
Oh. Vicky knows about Cilantro Pig.
Hi, Cilantro Pig. And for those in the UK, cilantro is coriander. So yeah.
Moment.
Yeah, some people love it. Some people think it tastes like soap. I'm a person who loves it. That's genetic. It's really interesting.
Yes, although I used to hate it as a kid and now I love it.
Interesting.
So there is some possibility for change.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love cilantro / coriander. Okay, tell us about Cilantro Pig.
Right. Cilantro Pig is named Cilantro Pig, even though he's full of succulents, because when my partner and I lived in California, we had a container garden in our yard and he had cilantro in him. And one time we were having a backyard party and I was inside for something and our friends decided to do this quiz, like, how well do Mike and Hannah know each other? And they asked Mike, like, what would Hannah say is the most like important or valuable thing in this yard? And he answered Cilantro Pig. And so I didn't know this was happening. I came back out and they asked me, like, what's the most important or valuable thing in the yard? I looked around for a second. I said, Cilantro Pig. And it was like a real like life goals, relationship goals moment that became immediately part of our friend group lore. And so Cilantro Pig now holds all that joy for me. Plus he's very jolly faced. And I keep him right in front, like just to the side of my large monitor over here, as a focus point for myself. Because one of the things that I believe from my artistic work and from reading that I've done is that giving ourselves a focal point in our workspace of real beauty or of joy or pleasure helps us focus on our work.
Yeah.
Because there's a philosopher from the States named Elaine Scarry, who's incredible. Highly recommended her book on beauty for those who are interested. But she says basically like, what does beauty do? Why is it important? It calls us to full presence. Even for a fleeting moment, our full attention is with this beautiful thing. And I love that as somebody who likes to make beautiful things in the world and be around beautiful things. But also I've realized like that can be leveraged for our work concentration as well, right? If we have something that calls our full attention and our full presence for a moment in our space, that calms the swirly tangle of brain thoughts that are always going. It's like, did I forget to XYZ? And what is the laundry doing? Like, oh, Twitter's doing this. And like my inbox is so full, right? I need something that just goes, and then I can do my work. I also have these beautiful little stones that I've collected from, where's the camera? that have these little lines on them. And I just
Oh, I love
I
those.
touch them from time to time, and they give me that same centering moment. Everybody's brain works differently. In these sessions, like, we talk. If your brain doesn't work that way, cool. I'm not forcing any rigid system on anybody, but more people than not have found that a really surprisingly effective way to energize their workspace. So that's one of the things I look at with folks, for sure.
I love that. I love that you bring something of beauty in. I've got several things that do that for me because, and one of them is thanks to you actually. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But I've got Enid the elephant, who is a plant stand, and she's just over there, and she's from a junk shop. And I'll put a picture on social media later because otherwise I'll have to turn my thing around. But then I've also got that is a map of Ankh-Morpork, which is a fictional city on Terry Pratchett's Discworld.
Oh, nice.
And so I love that. But the thing that Hannah helped me with, the thing that you helped me with, is this little flamingo dude right here. Because I remember you asking me about, yes, I can't remember exactly what you asked me about, but it was something to do with where do I keep my noise cancelling headphones and are they easy to hand? And I was just like, no, they're in a cupboard. And so you had suggested that I get a nice hook. And
because you talked about what an incredible difference they made for your mental well-being and your work, like, productivity. Like, you could not concentrate, and you got these headphones and you were like, these are life-changing. It's like, cool. Are they easy for you to get to? And you were like, no. They're easy for yourself to get to. And you've done it in, like, the most charming way with that flamingo hook. It's like, put a hook on the wall. You found the best one.
And it's just like, it just makes me smile every time I pick them up off my head. And that was like,
that is what I want, my friends.
10-second conversation with Hannah, and that's so. Yeah, if that's what you can get from a 10-second conversation with you, then I think your service is going to be so great. So I'm going to ask you in a minute where people can go and find out more about this service. But before I do, for everybody who signs up to my microbook magic course, Hannah has got an amazing offer, and I think it's I think you've given my microbook people like 50% off.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, almost 50% off, which is an amazing deal for what you're offering. So if anybody is on the fence about, oh, shall I come and write a microbook, then maybe this will tip you over, because Hannah's service is, yes, it's going to be wonderful for November, whether you are writing a microbook or doing NaNoWriMo or whatever it is that you're doing. But also, it's going to last you for the rest of your writing life. It's a lifetime investment. I sound like an insurance salesman now, but it really is, because it's not just for this one thing. So can you tell us a bit more about where we can find that and what you're offering microbookers?
Yeah, absolutely. So microbookers have a bit of a special link that they'll get to through you, which has the discount, and I offer a little bit of a different bonus to microbookers than the rest of folks. The best way right now is probably to go to my life on LinkedIn with that name. That's a little complicated, but also if you search for Hannah Editor Writing Coach, you'll find me.
I will tag you in the comments underneath this live as well. So
awesome. Yeah. Thank you. And it will be, because I'm making it simple for myself and for everyone, and it's not a fancy page on my website right now, but I will link to it from my website also, which is hannahDK.com. Nice. And yeah, that all the details will be available through those channels. And then what else did you ask? What I was offering to microbook folks?
Yes.
Yeah. So nearly 50% off for this one-to-one session with a pre-session questionnaire and a totally personal, like, here's how to transform your new insights and the vision you have had for yourself into action plan at the end. And then I will be saying hey and be available during the microbook office hours as well for the month of November. And one of those office hours is on a Thursday, which is Thanksgiving Day, where I am. And I will instead be cooking like crazy and eating a large amount of food that day, but we'll find another office hours time. And I'm really excited about it because I want to be available for follow-up questions and cheerleading and really helping that action come into people's lives and not just like sit on the shelf after we're done.
Amazing. So, thank you so much. That sounds so cool. And even if you're like, yeah, microbooks aren't for me right now, that's totally cool. go see Hannah anyway, because she's, if you're writing, if you're thinking of writing, if you're listening to this, then you're obviously interested in writing in some way or another, because otherwise, hi, but I'm not sure why you're here, because that's what I do. So yeah, go and find Hannah anyway, even if you're like, microbooks aren't for me right now. Go and have a look at what Hannah is offering, because I just think we all need to sort our spines out and move better and listen to our bodies and have a beautiful space to work if possible. So yeah, go do that. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me on this live. It's been a
pleasure, as always.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, and if anyone is interested in microbooks, I'm going to link to all of the information below. We start tomorrow, so don't think about it too long. And also, by the way, the price for this is definitely going up for the next time I do this, because it's extremely low priced at the moment, because it's a new thing that I'm trying. So come along, do it. It'll never be this much of a steal again. And if you have any questions at all, sorry, go on.
Just going to say the price for the Feel Good Where You Write sessions is also going up after the month of November. So
yes,
hop on in, y'all.
Yeah, come and get in at the beginning. And also it's your chance to help shape these things as well, because I always love to get feedback for anything new that I'm doing. It's like, how can I change it? What worked really well? What could work better next time? And it's a real opportunity to be kind of part of it and and help make it help make it better for future alumni. So yes, all of the details for both of these offers will be below. Go find Hannah, follow her, ask me anything about microbooks or anything else. My specialist subjects at the moment are emus, aerial, and writing. So happy to do all that. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope that you enjoyed listening to me and Hannah natter as much as I enjoyed nattering to her. And I also hope that you've got some really good tips about how to set up your own workspace in such a way that it's really comfortable for you. And I hope that you go check out the show notes, have a look at what Hannah's got to offer, because this really is a service that is going to pay off dividends, not just for writing, but also for, your life as a human sitting in a chair, because we're not designed to be sedentary, or not as sedentary as we are. We're supposed to move around more. So it's really important that we look after ourselves when we're stuck in our seats for such a long period of time, when I certainly am. And so this is, talking to Hannah and getting to know Hannah has been a real eye-opener. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you are interested in working with Hannah, then you can find all of the details about where to find her and her services in the show notes. Her web address is hannadk.com. hannadk.com. Link is in the show notes. And if you are interested in writing a microbook with me, unfortunately the November cohort is underway and closed, so I'm not taking on any new people now, but I will be running this again in January or February. So drop me an email and I will put you on the waiting list if you would like to join the waiting list for this. It's basically write a microbook in a month. I'm very excited about it. So thank you so much for listening. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Harriet, thank you as always for being incredible and amazing. And Podfly, thank you for making this sound extremely professional and lovely and for stitching it all together. And thank you to you, dear listener. As always, if you've enjoyed this, please go and rate us and review us. We really appreciate it. I kind of hate asking because I feel like a bit of a twat, but it really is helpful and also helps me to know that I'm not just kind of bellowing into the void, which is always nice. We'll be back same time next week. I'll be back with Joe. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening. Check out the show notes at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast for links to everything we've mentioned in this episode. Remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you'd like to hear more from Notes in the Margin, you can sign up to get regular emails from Vicky into your inbox at moxiebooks.co.uk/notes in the margin. We'll be back same time next week.